Welcome back to the Corrective Culture podcast. Today we have Holly Sinclair. And I had a look before. It's pretty much all things women's health, women's fertility. Tell us how you got into that.
That's me. Well, I just started as a PT,
Oh,
to be
cool.
honest.
Cool.
Funnily enough, ironically, my first ever job as a PT was at Fernwood.
Oh, sweet. Yeah,
So I feel
yeah.
like I've kind of come full circle in the women's health space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started at 17. I'm 36 now, so I
Wow.
Okay.
feel like a
Wow.
bit of a veteran.
Yeah, fully, hey. And so you started in, the body, obviously, and getting people into shape. And then what was the big turning point for you to switch into kind of helping women with their, cycles and things like that?
Well, I guess like as you guys know, when you're working with people on the gym floor, you start to really see how disembodied most people are. And especially for women, as my career progressed as a PT, I was really fortunate to end up working with companies similar to probably yours, but in Melbourne. And I got exposed to Charles Poliquin, and I did my first HLC one with Paul
Cool.
Check
Oh, wow.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so, I started to get exposed to that side of how there was people integrating functional medicine into strength and conditioning or into movement. It was this like real weird niche
Yeah.
that started about 20 years ago. And yeah, I think my passion for women's health probably came from when I learnt from those people. And then I started applying it to the women I was working with in a gym setting. Like for example, you'd see, depending on where they were in their cycle, like they couldn't brace properly or they couldn't hold, their grip would go at certain points in their cycle. All of these sort of things that were influencing the way that they moved. And then I think just through where I was in life, and as I came off the gym floor and started more in the functional medicine space and my own business, I think it just organically progressed into doing what I'm doing now, to be honest.
Okay. And what did that look like for you, like as you were training them, integrating that into their training? What did that look like?
Well, when I was on the gym floor,
Yeah, on the gym floor.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a long time ago, but it was a whole thing to work with me at that point. So, we'd be looking at nutrition, we'd be looking at blood work, we'd be periodizing every 4 weeks. We used to integrate a lot of like Ido Portal stuff, hybrid with strongman stuff, with, Pollock stuff, like all different types of movement depending on what the person's goals were. And then towards the tail end of their journey with me, then we'd probably start looking at functional medical labs as well. So depending on what their issues were, we'd integrate different types of labs. And the goal was always to get them to be their most optimal self, really. Because the space that I finished at as a PT, I ended up managing. And I used to say to the trainers there, like, it's wild that most people as PTs don't realize how much influence they actually have, because as a health coach or as a person that can influence somebody, you're seeing them every week.
Yeah.
You see someone every single week. So your power of influence is far greater than a GP. It's far greater than a naturopath. And the fact that you can totally change somebody's life in 12 weeks is wild, you know?
Yeah, true.
So yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be cool to see the evolution of the PT, because obviously the market is drowned with PTs now. There's a lot of PTs out there. So if you're not standing out, you're gonna just stand in with everyone else, So there's gonna be these like people that are really, you see people get into it and absolutely soar and just kill it, And usually it's because of the charisma a lot of the time. They're making people feel good while they're working with them. It's probably more than the result sometimes, I've actually realized this a lot. Like a lot of the time it's, if you're likable, you can be good or not that good at your job and do all right.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think about like early on, I remember I went to a physio. I still remember my first physio appointment for a shoulder, and she'd done it for 28 years. And she got recommended, well, just from 2 people that told me about her. They were a couple, so, they both knew her. And they're like, yeah, she's really good, really good. And I went there and she was really nice. And I was like, and I knew nothing back then. And I realized
Right.
what she gave me was nothing, really. She didn't really do an assessment. She didn't give me any exercises. She just told me my shoulder was hypermobile and said I had too much curve.
Yeah.
And that was it, right?
Yeah.
But no assessment. And then I remember when I left thinking, oh yeah, she's a nice lady. She's good.
Yeah.
You know, this is the illusion
Yeah.
a lot of people have. I've had people come and see me like, yeah, this one, he's really good and rah, rah. I'm like, well, you still, I mean, he may be a good person, right? And no one can fix it all, but you see me here for a reason and your back's still hurting, you know? So I think sometimes it's the illusions, eh? Like if you're good, if you're happy and nice, you can do well, even if you're not that sharp. But if you combine the two together, then they're the ones that'll kill it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that shouldn't be practicing in our industry, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more people than there is that should be.
Yeah.
Right. So, and yeah, I think that boils down to just fostering relationships with people, especially in a PT setting. Like, I even think back to when I first started. Most of the people that I was working with, it's just because we became friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and they want to see you every week, and it just becomes habitual for them, and you get sort of stuck in these ruts with clients, and it still happens, you know, not as much now, but it still happens sometimes for me in a coaching setting where it's sort of like someone's got to pull the trigger now and say, okay, well, we're done, or I don't need to see you anymore.
Yeah.
Because you can really get stuck in that, just like every week, same shit, rinse and repeat, you know. But you're not actually benefiting the client when you do that, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess
It becomes more about your monetary exchange.
Yeah, I guess it depends what your service is. If you're a PT and they just want to train, like, then, you know.
Totally.
Yeah. Some people just need that little kick in the ass. Like, I remember I was training a PT. He was a PT for rehab and he didn't have the discipline to do his rehab. So he'd end up paying me each week to just come and me watch him do his rehab. And I don't even want to do that. I've tell clients I don't want to see you every week. Like, I even had this guy, the older fella that came and saw me.
Yeah.
They wanted to do an 8-hour block. And I was like, nah, we only need 4.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what you're showing me here. You don't even live here. We don't need 8 hours together. And I would have felt like I was just taking his money. But honestly, I was like, I didn't need the 8 hours with him. So I didn't take that. But then now he wants the 8 hours bad. They're like, oh, we'll come back. We'll do another 4 eventually for my other parts of my body. I was like, yeah, all right, we can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird, the NGA, when you're trying to take from it, it just comes to you.
Yeah, for sure.
So did you have your own crisis to get into this, to get into more of the hormonal aspect of things? Because obviously if you're a PT, you would have been doing early mornings and just that whole off rhythm, feminine, you know, it would be hard to be on rhythm. As we know, especially when you've done the check stuff and all the hormone stuff, you know how important rhythms is as a female and as a man, but definitely as a female. And your rhythm would have been off.
PT hours are pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
There was many years where it was a 4:30 a.m. alarm and a 9:30 p.m. open the door.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think you got to do what you got to do, though. Like, it depends on who you are as a person. As I guess as the Czechies would say, like, I'm quite masculine, but I've really tried my best to balance and get into my feminine as I've become older and as I've become a mother, I'll be honest. But I think that type of energy in me helped me in my career because I was able to sort of keep up with those long hours and those full-on situations. But it's not even the hours, I think. It's the energy that you're wearing from the 12 people that you work with every day and the crew that you work with and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So that plays a role. But I definitely had a crisis, which is why I stopped being a PT because I got to the point where I just had panic attacks all the time.
Right.
And there was one time where my husband is a professional strongman and he was competing in the States and I called him from the side of the road and I was like, I'm going to call an ambulance because I think I'm having a heart attack. But he was just like, no, you just need to quit your job. So that's what I did. And fortunately, it happened in 2019, about 6 months before COVID started. And so I'd been lucky enough to build an online platform. So COVID was actually a blessing for me because it meant that my business started to take off online. But yeah, that was sort of my crisis with PT. And then, you know, I have my own story as to why I'm in the health industry in general. My dad was bipolar. He was an addict. He subsequently died from his addiction. And so that really motivates me to help people and allow them to just live their best selves, you know. because I had to witness all of that as a kid. So yeah, there's definitely a story there for sure.
Yeah. And was that like pain meds and stuff like that?
It
Or
was alcohol.
alcohol?
Yeah, it was alcohol.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had a traumatic brain injury as a child.
Yeah.
And so he literally didn't have part of his frontal lobe.
Yeah.
So, that's challenging when you're dealing with mental health issues. And so a lot of my career in functional medicine actually has been spent in neurology. Like I have a very deep understanding of the brain because that really just came out of interest in my own story. And now it's become very beneficial to have that knowledge because so much of working with women, and especially working in the fertility space, I have to be able to manage people's emotions and neurochemistry and nervous systems very delicately as I navigate them through this journey of becoming parents. So in a weird way, it's been very beneficial to have started my learning in the brain space. But yeah, now obviously I'm more in the fertility side of things.
Yeah, it's a good business to be in, because
Yeah.
a lot of women do struggle with that these days, and it would be a fear that a lot of women have. Like I'm always put myself in the shoes of other people and thinking about how would you be feeling right now, And I know, like, my sister's 36 this year, and I know probably she thinks about it every single day whether she can fall pregnant, right? And any girl, probably when they start reaching their 30s, they start like, oh, they'll have that fear. It's natural, like, am I going to be out of a kid? Am I not be out of a kid? And I remember when I asked Susie this on the podcast, she was like, yeah, there's biological age and chronological age, So she had a child at 41 and she goes, it was fine. It was perfect, all healthy. But she's been checked for, 20 years or something. She knows all the foundations and whatnot. And, but that is a fear for a lot of women. And you can see, like, because it's like, I always talk about, it's like the Matrix, right? You can see when the way we eat and live, and it's so normal to us, but it's not normal to the girl that's, having even panic attacks and having 2 coffees in the morning on an empty stomach and having smashed avocado, thinking the white bread and whatever avocado is enough to build a baby out of,
Well, I'll tell you, to be honest, the worst thing that women do for years is they don't eat enough.
Right. Okay.
So, we can talk about quality of food, which definitely plays a huge role for sure. But the biggest issue with, if we're talking specifically for female fertility, is that they just eat like fucking sparrows all the time. They eat nothing, and I see it because I do basal body temperature charting with all of my female clients, and you see it come through in the charts. Like, there's a physician called Broder Barnes. He's a physician from the 70s, and he specialized in thyroid health. And in his books, he talks about like what are optimal morning temps, because back in the day we didn't have bloods, right? So they used to use morning temps as a means to gauge what your thyroid was doing. And he says that 36.4 to 37.1 degrees, depending on where you are in your cycle, is optimal temps for a woman. I'll tell you guys, literally so many women I work with, 35.95, 35.8, 36.1, that might be a good day. And they, in their luteal phase, they may just get 36.5, maybe, which is so weak. So I know, like, I see it in people's charts, like, you don't eat enough food. And they can say to me black and blue, like, no, I eat heaps of food, Holly. It's like, no, you fucking don't, because your chart is showing me that you don't. And one of the things that we see from a progress standpoint is that over 3, 4, 5 cycles, because we got to respect the fact that follicular genesis is a thing, right? So the life cycle of follicular development plays a role in seeing progress come out in a chart. But, by cycle 4, cycle 5, you're seeing those temps come up. You're seeing no temps go below 36 degrees. A lot of the time you're seeing them hit that 37-degree mark in the luteal phase, which is exactly what we want to see, to know that you're going into actively trying to conceive in the best health possible. And I can assure you, no IVF clinic's looking at your charts.
So can you explain that more? Sorry, like that chart and how you take it, and can people do that themselves at home, or? Yeah.
So I practice what's called the symptothermal method. I need to do a disclaimer. I'm not a fertility awareness practitioner, but that is what I apply to my clients. But effectively, the umbrella term is fertility awareness method, or FAM. And there's different methods. So you've got Billings method, which is just checking cervical mucus. And then you've got other methods where it's just checking temperature. The symptothermal method checks both. And so because it applies both of those data points, it's 99.9% accurate if applied properly. So that's the other thing. But you just take your morning temperature with a fertility thermometer, which you can get from Chemist Warehouse. Has to go to 0.2 decimals, not 0.1. And you just take your morning temp, log it in whichever
like
app
in
you
your
want to
mouth?
use. In your mouth
Yeah.
or vaginally.
Yep.
There are a lot of companies now that are wearable devices, like Aura's just come out with natural cycles to try and hit this market. I'll say that wearables are always going to be less accurate because they're an external temperature.
Yeah.
So really, if you want to apply these methods truly, you have to do internal temps. And then, yeah, so really you want to see like certain temps in the first fortnight, and then you see that clear ovulation increase, and then you see higher temps for the second fortnight of the cycle. And you apply that with where you see cervical placement and then cervical mucus as well to get a gauge of what your fertility looks like.
What's cervical placement?
So literally looking at your cervix with a mirror,
Yep.
is it high or is it low?
Right.
Because depending on where you are in your cycle, it will move, because obviously as you're coming into ovulation, it's dropping to pull sperm up. And then once you've released the egg, it's like, bitch, I don't need no sperm. So it pulls the cervix all the way up to keep everything tight in case you do conceive that cycle.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And why does the body's temperature play such a vital role in? Is that because like if you're stressed, you're not feeling safe and you cool down? Because I thought it would have been like you would have heated up, like because you know everyone's so hot these days and inflamed.
Yeah.
Why does the temperature drop?
Like the food? Why does the food help that?
So you're talking about like overall lower temps? Why does that happen?
Is it is there a difference between like the body temperature or the way you're saying it, like putting it in your vaginally or in your mouth?
So a 0.2 decimal shift is like tiny, right?
Yeah.
Like you're only going to effectively see that if you're taking attempts. You're not going to feel it. So that's worth noting. But the main reason temperatures would be lower, so sit in that 35.9 bracket, let's say, on morning temp.
Yeah.
Because we've got to respect the fact that the body's homeostasis is 36 degrees.
Yeah.
So if you're waking up and you take a temperature and you're 35.85, you're outside homeostasis.
Yeah.
Right? So the reason that happens for the most part is because their metabolic function is poor. They're cold, they're not producing enough energy, and usually that's because they don't eat enough food. They don't have enough caloric density coming in to support thyroid function. Other times, definitely stress. Stress can play a huge role in why your body is dipping outside of homeostasis. But then the question is, like, what is driving that stress? And what I see a lot of the time is undereating drives a lot of stress production, right? So it's more about that, I guess, that allostatic load that Check talks about a lot, and trying to pull the easiest levers to get that person into a metabolic position where their body feels safe enough to start ovulating, safe enough to have a longer luteal phase, safe enough to conceive. Because people have to also respect the fact that they're trying to create a human life out of 2 half cells. Like that's crazy when you think about it. And so if you're not nourished, that's not going to happen. And nourishment, in my opinion, is split into 2 categories. It's quality, it's food, it's sunlight, it's movement. Like those are the things that nourish you, but it's also quantity. Like you have to eat 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. You do, because reproductive health is dictated by a pathway called mTOR. That's all about anabolics. You're creating life. You are literally trying to grow something. So you have to be anabolic going into actively trying to conceive. So if you're eating like 3 meals a day with 20 grams of protein each meal, that's not going to happen. And then like, you know, so that quantity, that calorie excess piece for fertility specifically is very important.
And what about frequency?
Yeah, I do in terms of what I see, there is a lot of blood sugar mismanagement going on
Yeah.
in people. And blood sugar, again, we talk about allostatic load, that plays a huge role in stress. So I really encourage people to eat every 3.5 to 4 hours, but an actual meal, not this like fucking snack situation that especially women love to do, but an actual meal. So ideally, that would probably see most people have 4 proper meals a day, all with animal protein and some form of good quality carbohydrate. That could be like potatoes, rice, fruit, whatever. But that's kind of the generalized shtick that I would give most people working with me. And then depending on what we run lab-wise or what their complaints are symptomatically, then that will dictate what we do individually with nutrition. Because if you have SIBO, let's say, you have lactulose-based, combined dominant SIBO, so you're hydrogen and methane dominant. Sis, we gotta do an elemental diet. We've got to fast. We've got to go low FODMAP. We've got to move into a biphasic diet. So that's individualized. And if you have, say, SIBO, that's probably why you're not conceiving.
What's
Right,
an
so we
elemental
have to-
diet?
The elemental diet is a shake. So it's literally, because the thing is with SIBO, you have to starve it out.
Yeah.
So depending on how bad it is, you go on an elemental diet for 7 to 14 days. It's literally a fast for 7 to 14 days
Okay.
with pharmaceutical grade, like amino acid based shakes so that you don't start to become too catabolic. And then from there, you shift into a biphasic diet, which is low FODMAP coupled with low resistant starch as you start to sort of kill off the pathogens, depending on obviously what type of SIBO
How
you
long?
have.
How long does SIBO usually last? Like, is it a month kind of thing, or is it a 6-month thing for a lot of women?
As in, like, how long
Does
does
the
it take to get rid
bacteria?
of it?
Yeah, in the small intestine. Like, how long does it take to like clear through the
It's
intestine?
really tough, man. Like,
Yeah.
it depends on so many factors with SIBO. The biggest one with SIBO is it's a brain axis issue.
Yeah, it is.
Ultimately, because the migrating motor complex is inflamed and it's stopped working. And so that's why you get this like fermentation and putrefaction of microbes taking place because the food's not moving through your gut properly.
Yeah.
And so you can do the elemental diet and the sups and stuff, which is what most people are happy to do, right? But unless you work on your nervous system, it's probably going to come back. And it's got a huge relapse rate, SIBO.
Really?
And I think it's because people don't work on their nervous system and they don't get to the core of why that migrating motor complex is actually inflamed in the first place. So it's hard to say how long it takes. Most SIBO protocols would go anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah. That sounds like a bastard.
In regard to the body temp thing and not enough calories, what do you see? Like, say a woman's overweight, do you see her temperature still low?
Yes,
Okay.
a lot. Because if you are that metabolically unfit, then your thyroid's not working properly regardless. Like regardless if you've got extra body fat or not, you're metabolically not healthy. So I see that a lot, especially in girls with PCOS. Like they have very low temps a lot of the time. And so it's that's hard when you're working with somebody like that because on one end, you do very likely have insulin resistance and you have a lot of inflammation. And so we need to get that under control. And the only way to do that is through probably calorie deficits, restricting carbohydrates, all of that sort of stuff. But in the same vein, we have to appreciate that like your body needs to feel safe and it has to feel safe in order to ovulate consistently and get that homeostatic temp up. So it's a very like delicate dance we have to play. And those types of clients do take a few months to get there because it's a slow and steady approach. But yeah, I do see low temps in overweight people for sure.
Okay. Yeah. That's, I keep thinking about like my sister. She's not overweight, by the way. In case she's listening to this.
But even with your sister, like
yeah.
let's talk stats for a second about age.
Yeah.
Because I think this is always something that people don't realize. So firstly, statistically, you are more likely to conceive naturally in your 40s as a female than you are if you go through IVF.
Right.
Full stop.
Okay.
So the whole like, you got to get to IVF if you're 35 plus
Yeah.
is, we just need to put that to the side for a second because that's not what the stats tell us. Stats tell us, if you look at the IVF clinics, they say anywhere from a 2 to 5% chance of conceiving 42 plus. But if you have a natural cycle and you are still ovulating, because all you need is ovulation,
Yeah.
if you're still ovulating, you have a 10 to 20% chance of conceiving each cycle.
Right. Okay. It's not bad.
Right. So, yeah, I think that's really important for women who are of those later ages of like late older 30s, early 40s. It's like you don't have to be running to IVF if you don't want to. If you want to, that's fine, but you don't have to be because statistically you've got a better chance naturally conceiving. So that's one thing. And then the second thing that gets spoken about all the time in context of like age and fertility is AMH, which is this blood marker anti-Müllerian hormone. And they love to use, it's like they found this blood marker and they went, oh yeah, baby, because it's their ticket to sending somebody to IVF. And effectively what they've dubbed it as is the way to test how many eggs you have left. It is a complete crock of shit, that blood marker, and I'll explain why. In the process of follicular genesis, which is the life cycle of your follicle, the development of your follicle, you have different stages of that. So the first stage of follicular genesis is referred to as the primordial follicle, okay? And then as it matures, it goes from the primordial to the secondary to the antral, pre-ovulatory, ovulation, and it releases your egg, right? Because your follicle is what releases your egg. Now that life cycle is 295 days. When they test AMH, that is a hormone that's produced off the antral stage of follicular genesis, which is the midpoint of the life cycle of that follicle. That is where AMH comes from. It's a hormone that the follicle produces at that point. There is no way of knowing how many primordial follicles you have. Test doesn't exist. Impossible to know. There's no way of knowing how many secondary follicles exist. Okay, so this idea that AMH is like, oh, that tells us how much eggs you have left, it's a crock of shit. The only reason you should ever test that marker is to know what drug dosages you should use in IVF because you don't want to overstimulate yourself if you have a high AMH reading. And it's also proven that AMH doesn't reflect fertility because women with PCOS who have abundant amount of follicles have very high levels of AMH. But PCOS is the leading cause of infertility for women.
Right.
So it's like, so you're telling me she's fine because her AMH is high, but she has PCOS. So I think we get stuck into this trap, this fear-mongered trap, that, oh, well, if you don't have a baby by 35, like you're cooked. But really, if we zoom out and we actually look at the cold, hard facts, that is not the case. And there's research that's been done to show that pregnancy outcomes are better in women with low AMH than high AMH. So what?
Well, yeah. With PCOS, like I keep hearing like blood sugar's big for that. Is that something you agree with?
Yeah, I mean, the number one contributor to PCOS or the syndrome is insulin resistance.
Okay.
But you can have different types of PCOS. You could have adrenal PCOS.
Yep.
But the most common one is insulin resistance, yeah.
Okay, and that's just from them spiking their blood sugar throughout the day and not eating for long periods of time and whatnot.
Yeah, it's just like people living poorly, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sugar's such a huge one, eh?
Yeah,
And
it's like going long periods without food, then you're starving. So then you eat shit, you don't have any protein, you just have naked carbs all day. And then you might eat like steak and veg for dinner, and then you don't exercise, you sit in front of blue light. I mean, women, we know we are way more sensitive to blue light because we have less testosterone receptors in our eyes. We have 25% less testosterone receptors, which means that we can't tolerate the stress of blue light same way men can tolerate it, right? So if you are sitting at a desk, going long periods without eating, then you eat a naked carb, then you don't exercise. It's like, over the course of 10 years, of course, metabolically, you're not going to be doing very well. And then probably somebody at 17 or 18, when you were complaining about the fact that you had amenorrhea, which is a long cycle, you went to the doctor and he went, oh, just go on the pill. and then you get put on the pill, and then you stay on the pill. So you just kick the can down the road, and then you come off it to have a baby. And then it's like, well, 20 years later, all this metabolic damage has taken place, but you haven't known because you've been artificially, propping up your cycle. And then you come off the pill and you go, oh, well, my PCOS is out of control. And then they go, oh, IVF.
Yeah. And I think
And you're like, oh, God.
like your consciousness doesn't your consciousness doesn't know either, which is a really good thing that like young women don't understand, is like you don't know, you might not be feeling stressed in your thoughts. Often you will be, but you're kind of used to that life. But then your involuntary nervous system is giving you many signs like PCOS and bad sleep, teeth grinding, all sorts of different like symptoms, but you're not listening because you're not thinking that you're stressed. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Like, you know what I mean? But the body doesn't lie, and it gives you all these little signals that sometimes people just don't tap into because they're unaware of it. Yeah.
Even I'll be consulting with somebody and she is literally crying.
Yeah.
Literally crying. And she's going, no, I'm not stressed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you are so disembodied.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. But it's hard. How do you shift that in people?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what's very scary is like we spend so much time on our phone. We don't connect to nature enough. We're not eating organic food. We're not having good spring water with salt in it. There's just like so many things. And that's why, yeah, I love what you do. And I think it's like important to even just drink good water to start. Sometimes just putting like a stick down and stepping over that one little stick is what makes the biggest change, eh? Because there's so much.
For sure. The feedback I get a lot is that because I'm telling them to eat more, they find that that's challenging mentally for women. But because it's not restrictive, they actually can stick to it a lot better.
Yeah.
And as soon as this is something I used to say to the people that I would work with, like if you get your client to trust you from day dot and you do that by applying something that you know is going to work, and then they come back to you and they go, oh my God, that worked. And you're like, yeah, I know. So if you get that trust from first, second session, they'll listen to you. But if you don't get that trust by applying what you're telling them to do, then see you later. Like they're already disengaged.
And often they're looking for a mother, right? They're looking for a mum or a dad to tell them what's wrong or right.
Yes.
And it's almost like you need to be like, snap them into adulthood and be like, take control of your own health because you're always going to be a child otherwise. So they're constantly stuck in that cycle of like, what should I do? What should I do? When really they're getting all the signals that they need.
Yeah. It's pretty concerning because I work with couples. I won't work with just a woman.
Okay.
Because it's a
Cool.
50-50 job.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
it's pretty concerning when
Yeah.
you see how much reparenting people need to do. Because like there is a huge esoteric element to conceiving. Okay. And we can call this woo-woo, whatever. I'm sure quantum physics and science will confirm this eventually, but I truly believe that like your baby's souls are always orbiting and they're just waiting for the right time to come into the physical realm. And if you are in a dynamic of a relationship where one or both of you like are still children or you're not in alignment with your values, I see that a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get stuck on the getting pregnant, but it's like, okay, well, once you are pregnant and you become parents, because let me tell you, you can have the best relationship in the world. As soon as you become parents, like you're going to be challenged. I promise you, I've experienced it. It's a thing. So what are you going to do when you have a baby? Like, do you align? Are you going to vaccinate them? Are you going to send them to childcare? Is she going to stay home from work? Are you comfortable with that? Have you spoken about your finances? Like, what's this going to look like? No one's having these conversations.
100%.
So it's like,
Yeah.
so why? Of course, that baby's not coming into the physical realm yet because they know, like, it's too stressful. There's no alignment taking place. And part of the first session with me is you get sent basically conversation starters to have together over dinner around these things because you need to be in alignment. before you bring a child into this world. And I do think it plays a huge role. And that's why, and this is going to sound really crass, and I don't mean it to be, but I do think that's why IVF has such poor success rates, because you are literally pushing against a situation most of the time that nature is saying no to.
Yeah, I agree.
With I have a friend that went on IVF. It took her a long time, right? But eventually she had a child. She had morning sickness, really bad, like the whole way through. And then I relate to like when my mum had me, she didn't have any morning sickness, right? And she was like, yeah, it was fine, right? It was like, I swear back in the day, I don't know, less toxins in the world, like it was just wasn't a thing. Everyone, it was like, maybe we don't know about it, but women would get pregnant easier. I didn't even know of endo or PCOS, all those sort of things. But why, do you know much about like morning sickness and like why someone are crippled by it and why some are just smooth with it, you know?
So there's two different camps there. So you've got morning sickness, which we can talk about from a, I guess, like a norm standpoint. And then there's HG, which is where you're literally vomiting, cannot keep anything down for the entire pregnancy, basically. Now that has become more prevalent, certainly, over the last couple of decades. And what science is suggesting is that it's actually a genetic mutation that's taking place. So, you know, but epigenetics plays a role there. We also know that the placenta is 50% sperm. So,
I didn't know that, yeah.
Well, of course it is, because the baby's 50% sperm.
Yeah.
Right? So the health of the sperm influences the health of the placenta.
Definitely, yeah.
Which influences the health of the baby.
But it's all the woman, right? Like the woman just has the baby.
Oh, yeah. So I would say the health of your partner actually influences morning sickness.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And then, so you've got different degrees. I would always say to clients that if you have like a slight nausea, that maybe passes once you have some sourdough toast or something in the first trimester, that's pretty normal, because you've got the equivalent, you're taking the equivalent of 3 birth control pills in estrogen a day while you're pregnant. Okay, so your estrogen levels are like so high in that first trimester. So it's normal to have that nauseous feeling. If you have anything more than that, it's really a reflection, and it's not HG, but you're just like real sick, maybe for the first 12 to 14 weeks. It's just a byproduct of your mitochondrial health. Like that, it is. Like you haven't gone into the pregnancy healthy. So there's a couple of factors there, like the sperm health and the mitochondria and the genetics. But yeah, I think for those women, I would just say that preconceptive care probably needed to be longer and better.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's because sometimes they get the food on point, but you never know what else isn't on point.
Yeah, like, and this is, I'm a huge fan of labs. So, and this is why, because a lot of the time, just because you're lean and you're fit and, you know, you eat organic, whatever, I think if you're going to go into, as you boys know with parasites, right? Like if you're going to go into actively trying for a baby, you want to make sure everything's looking pretty good there. Now, certainly there's limitations to labs, and I understand that as well. I've had scenarios where people have had chronic gut issues, tested them, everything looks good. Still ran a gut protocol, felt much better, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not taking away from that. But sometimes that, especially for preconception, because it's like, it's not even about getting pregnant necessarily. It's about the health of your child. You know, like, so everything you do leading up to that moment is going to matter, not just for the pregnancy. It's going to influence the birth. It's going to influence the labor. It's going to influence the health of your baby, like everything, you know? So make the effort, do the 6 months preconceptive care.
And get educated, hey? I think
get
that's
educated.
the biggest thing. It's like, I had a friend, Jade, and she did such an amazing job with my best friend Tommy with having a child. Like, she just read so many books on it, and like, it was unbelievable. And the child is so well behaved. I've never seen a better child, to be honest. Like, just never cries, just always, you know, cries when it wants food and stuff, but so calm.
Yeah,
Like,
and so
very
they should
interesting,
be.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of moves a bit outside of my space. I mean, I can talk about it as a mother.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, there are things that then take place beyond the birth, beyond the pregnancy, that influence neurodevelopment.
Oh, definitely.
That
Yeah.
if you're reading between the lines there, that certainly will impact kids' behaviours. But yeah, a huge part of autism and dyslexia take place in trimester 2. It's when the brain's developing in the pregnancy. So,
Yeah. It's funny how you're talking about the calmness. Like I recently I saw this lady and she had 2 kids. She's single, right? And they were just running over her basically. And she was trying to drop into a masculine and I remember thinking, God, if these were my kids, I'd pull them up so quick and they would listen to me.
Yeah.
They'd need that like masculine voice. Like, "Oi," she was like, don't do it. And then they do it. And then there's not really a repercussion. They just do it and then they realize, oh, I can do this whenever I want.
Yeah.
Because she's too feminine. That she tries, but I could see, like you need that masculine energy.
Yeah.
well, you see that statistically, like in crime violence.
Yeah,
Is
100%.
Is that kids that come from fatherless homes are 25 to 50% more likely to commit violent crime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know. When
dads matter.
I'm not sure if you know, but I got locked up years ago, and I got a good relationship with my dad though. But mine wasn't a violent crime. I was just old school anyway. But the crew that were in there, I noticed that was a pattern they all had. They all had no father,
homes.
or they were just with a mum, and the mum wouldn't really would still love them no matter what they did, which is great. But they were just like trying to be tough and it's like they had no one to clip them over the back of the head, be like, "Oi, we don't do that here,"
Yeah.
which is important.
I think it's the most important thing as a male. Like my father was like, he was really soft later in life, but early on it was like, don't fuck with me. I'll beat the shit out of you pretty much. And I liked that. And I still like that. And I think about it all the time because I'm like, that gave me my masculine drive. And yeah, I saw a picture of Andrew Tate. Say what you want about Andrew Tate, a video, sorry. And his kid was like afraid of a bee. And he was like doing
stop.
Yeah, and he was clicking and he was like ducking and doing 1-2s like, and he's like, "You're not fucking afraid of a bee. We don't give a fuck about that bee. Go back to the drill." And he's like, "I understand." And I was like, that's sometimes the harsh, like that's I back that.
Here's
you know
an
what I mean?
example.
Like I feel like that's really good.
Here's a good example. It was like there was this kid stayed at a friend's house and the friend had a nightlight, right? So this guy wasn't even afraid of the dark, right? This kid. But his friend had a nightlight. Then he came home and he told his dad, "Dad, I want a nightlight." And he's like, "Why do you want nightlights?" "I'm afraid of the dark." And his dad, this is brutal, but his dad like put him in there, closed the door and goes, there you
Deal
go.
with it.
I think he said, "There you go, son, deal with it," or something. And he goes, "I cried my eyes out for about 4 hours, fell asleep and was never afraid of the dark again." Now this is tough love, but if there's a lesson in that, am I just going to give in to my son's, you know what I mean? Like I want the nightlight. He knew he wasn't afraid because he only, he went to his friend's house. And he could have been afraid for the dark for the next 3 years, And there's these times, it's a balance, right? But
there's times in our household, my husband's quite masculine and quite firm, but gentle and loving, like, that real checky vibe. And, I think for us, it's like, if you never say no, then how do you expect your child to be able to say no later on in life? If you don't show them what a boundary is, how do you expect them to know what that is as they become teenagers and adults? Especially, we have a daughter and a son.
Yeah.
I want my daughter to be able to say no to a guy advancing her,
100%.
for example. So if I don't do that for her now, she's not going to learn that. But I think it's situational for us. Like if there's any risk involved, physically, for my son, my husband is extremely firm. But my son chopped wood last night for the fire.
Sick.
And he's 3.5. And he has a real axe and all that sort of stuff. So it's about like priming them with riskiness in a safe environment.
100%.
But if you're fucking around, like we're going to pull you up straight away. So it's hard. It's like that duality because I feel like, I don't know if you're familiar with Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
But, his stuff has like become huge, right,
Yeah.
in the gentle parenting space, and probably very necessary
Yeah.
because it really had to swing the pendulum. But it's almost like it's swung too far now, and we've got to sort of pull it back a little bit,
Yeah. And
because we're creating like a generation of anxious
softies.
Oh,
softies.
testosterone's
Yeah.
low. You know,
Yeah.
The betas.
betas. Yeah, I see like early 20s to 25. You're like guys come in and even just message us, or even when like you talk to some, you know, when you meet out and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I can see where these guys are at. And I think maybe I was there too at some stage, but
Yeah.
sometimes they'll never transition out of it, and they won't unless there's something. Like for us, it was good. We got it like year round. We did MMA, and obviously I went to prison, and Jake has his story, and like there's all these things that help build your character. But I can see the boy archetype because we're not taught as a man that whole king, warrior, magician, lover, the whole like, you know, boy to man to king or warrior, whatever it may be. But there was in school, there was no idea of, okay, you know, you should probably try and provide, you know, like I believe men should try and be providers, or at least have that. Because, and not even, this sounds almost selfish, not even for the woman. I feel like it makes a guy feel useful. It's almost primal, like a primal need for a guy to do that. And obviously the woman can do whatever she wants, but at least that base need is met. So then if she wants to start a business, sweet, but at least rent's covered, you know? And
Totally.
and that's a dynamic that a lot of women I think would say yes to, you know, if they had that choice. And
Yeah.
I think for guys, growing up, we didn't know that, you know what I mean? Like they just basically to say like don't hit a woman, you know, but there was no like, okay, these are these instinctual primordial feelings within us that help us a lot.
You see it play out in fertility, man.
Yeah.
Because like you want to talk about why women have huge levels of endometriosis and PCOS, because they're literally killing their womb.
Yeah.
Their womb is shutting down on them to become a man because, you know, 9 to 5 corporate,
Yeah.
got to get that money, honey.
Yeah.
And then you see it on the opposite side with blokes. It's like, yeah, you don't even have morning wood, bro.
Yeah.
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 You know,
I know.
it's
As
like,
a 20-year-old
so-
dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, and like Dr. Shana Swan, who wrote Countdown, she's the researcher that did the famous meta-analysis that looked at sperm trajectory and how we're going to be basically extinct by 2050 if we keep going. And she talks about this all the time, like in regards to how bad sperm is,
Yeah.
you know, and like we're literally becoming extinct.
Yeah.
Now that has to be the way that we've set up how we live now, and like this complete disrespect for what women are good at and where women should be, and what men are good at and where men should be. And we just dub them toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. It's like,
Well, if you threw a couple out in nature to survive for a year, what do you reckon would happen? They would be eating organic food. They would get in line with circadian rhythms. They would probably heal 100%. And that's why we're so far away from that right now. Even like these little digital leashes we have, our phones, our movies at night, everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's wrong, but we've got to remember where we came from, because if we don't remember that, we're never going to fully heal. And I agree, like it's going to it will get scary. It doesn't seem like, I feel like there's a big movement, but there's also the majority of people are really stuck in the new
I
age.
think we're so niche.
AI.
We're so in our echo chamber, the three of us. Like the fact that China's just released a robot that can carry a baby, like in their womb.
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, this is where we're going, guys. You know, like artificial surrogate. The fact that surrogacy exists. You want to rent a woman's body?
Yeah.
You want to rent her womb to fucking then steal her actual primal child? That? And we've normalized that? Like that's us being virtuous now and altruistic. Like, oh, I'm going to give my womb to you and then hand over my child afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I also-
crazy.
Sorry, you go.
Oh, like when you were touching on that femininity and masculinity thing, what I've noticed too, how you're saying, okay, a guy say wants to provide, or say the guy thinks he should work and the stay-at-home mum or whatever, that's almost viewed as toxic, right? And what I've found is a lot of the women I speak to, even just bringing that style up to them, like, oh, this is the way I expect my life to be lived, you know? And I'm just clear on that. I'm like, this is how I want my life, and it's nice. 95% of them, like, yeah, I'd love that. I'd love
Yeah.
that. But they're not the ones
Definitely.
that are going to bite back on online because that's not in
Yeah.
their nature because they're
Yeah.
more feminine. So they're not going to be like, oh, I hate that, rah, rah. It's almost going to be the more masculine women disagreeing with that. And then it sounds like that's the voice for women.
Yeah.
But it's not true. It's like
Yeah.
most actually would love that, would love to just be cared for, but also, again, freedom though. If you want to start a business or something, sweet. But
Yeah.
these are the
Well, it's what we've done since the dawn of time. It's like you're going against like, I mean, I'm sure there would have been more masculine women back in the day that might have gone out and hunted and stuff. But for the dawn of time, we've been, that dynamic's been somewhat of a thing.
yeah.
So it's like we go against it now and we're still, you've got like, because of the internet, we hear a lot of things, but I feel like the majority of people love that dynamic and it works. And
Well, it's evolution, and I'm so into evolution. I've watched just about every video I could find on YouTube of tribes hunting and things like that. And the
Right.
pattern I see is the guys go out hunting, the girls going out and looking for tubers and whatnot. But if they see any animal, they'll hunt it too. You know,
Yeah.
if they're on the fly, they see, oh, we'll grab that. You know, they see meat as like the prize. You know, obviously that's how you're going to stay alive. And then and
Well,
I've
vegan
noticed,
would disagree, but anyway.
yeah.
and then I've noticed they're all like dancing in the river and that like together. They're all together, these women. So there's
Yeah.
not one woman by herself raising this child while this dude's off at hunting, right? Or at work, we could say today. And then coming home by herself doing it all, feeding the child. You know what I mean? Like that's
Well, the
unnatural.
fact that childcare exists just solidifies everything
Yeah.
you're saying. Because the fact that we've normalized handing out children over to absolute strangers because going to work in a fucking 2x4 office, in a corporate office, is more important than just raising a child. That's wild.
Yeah, it is.
But that's more normal. So for the three of us to say, well, hang on, I actually think women should just stay at home.
Yeah.
Like, we're the extremists,
yeah.
That's crazy that we've even gotten to this point. And yeah, like I just keep coming back to the fact that we see it play out in people's health. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes back to safety and
Yeah.
security, but also like the way our system is run. Because you want a house now, you got to drop $1 million. So if
Well,
you're
this
on
is
a
the thing,
if you're on a normal guy's wage, like if he's on a 9 to 5, almost, and she wants the nice things too. It doesn't have to be nice things. Just like, oh, I want a nice kitchen. I'd like to live here. I'd like to be able to go traveling twice a year. That's very, very, very rare. If they want to pay off a house too, and if just off the one guy's wage. So a lot of these people, they have to both work if they want that, right? Unless the guy's got something rolling that's big enough. That's very rare. That's like probably the 1% of men can do that. And so it's that too, eh?
Yeah,
it's like
it's
all these
massive.
different little
Yeah,
pillars of
it's-
like,
but you can, but also people don't need to live in a $1.5 million townhouse in a city.
yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. Get
They
some
choose to do
land.
that.
Yeah.
And then you get city tax. So your
Yeah.
childcare is more expensive. Your
Yeah.
car is now more expensive.
Your parking.
Your parking's more
tolls.
expensive.
It's
Exactly.
fucking
Like,
everything.
we made the decision as a family to move an hour and a half out of Melbourne into
Nice
the Yarra
work.
Valley, into the mountains.
Beautiful.
And like, it's beautiful, man.
You could never
know?
go back, right? Once
Never,
you
ever in a
slowed
million
down
years.
and your nervous system kind of like calibrated out there, was it just like the craziest feeling ever?
It's the best. And
Yeah.
every time we drive back into the city now to see people, I'm like, I fucking hate this joint.
Yeah.
But like a big part of that decision was because if I do want to stop working, which I don't think I will because I love what I do, but we could afford that, you know. And that was a big part of that because we won't send our kids to childcare. We manage that at home with a nanny. But, and like we want to talk about health. The reason adults are so sick is because from 0 to 3, they haven't been cared for properly. Like so much of mental health issues, brain issues, nervous system issues are actually formed in those formative years of 0 to 3. So, Erica Commissar talks about this all the time, but like the level of influence you have as a parent on brain development from 0 to 3 sets you up for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
So why are we taking babies away from mums
Yeah.
and putting them into childcare centres in the most important time? It's so it plays out in so many different ways. It's not just about having a traditional family setup, although that's lovely and that's evolution and for sure. But it's actually more about nurturing the health of your children at this point to stay home with them.
Oh yeah, get them out in nature, no screens whatsoever.
That's right.
Like
That's right.
Well, it's back down to that soul path. Like you say, you love to work, and that's great because that's what you want to do. And I think that's
right.
that's the point I'm trying to get across. Like, it's definitely women can work, but as long as they want to, not as they don't. I don't want them to feel like they have to, and like that 9 to 5 in a corporate thing or whatever it may be. Like, if they love it, then that's the path. If they love it, they love it. You know.
Yeah.
And your soul will tell you that. We're not all meant to be on the same path, but a lot of them are doing it and they don't love it, right? And it's just like, that's the trap. And same thing with the guy. The guy's got to love what he does too. You know, everyone's just got to have their soul path.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Yeah. Sorry.
You go. No, I was just going to say, there are situations where maybe also you need to consider whether or not you should become a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Because if you can't fulfill some of these things we're talking about to your children, I don't really understand why you're choosing to do that then. Like, why are you popping out a kid? Why are you like, you know, it's like, it starts at birth, right? C-sections, vaccines, fucking boom, boom, boom. And then, 3 months old, got to go back to work, 9 to 5 in the childcare centre. It's like, I don't understand why you had a kid.
Yeah, for sure. It's like someone who enrolls in the army and then when they actually kill someone, they have trauma for the rest of their life because they didn't think they would. It's like, you need to understand it's going to be like, I'm sure you would know now that it's the hardest thing ever. The sleepless nights, like, and I don't have a kid, but I'm aware of that. Like, I want to be ready and I want to be, because I am afraid. I'm afraid of those sleepless nights and I really want to be committed to that and know that I have that energy to put into that at the time, which requires good health, which requires sunlight, requires good food, or requires good relationships. Like,
yeah, you can tell it'll be an intense, like, it was like when I first got my dog, I was so into like, all right, how am I moving? What am I letting her do? And like, it was like, I was like programming her, you know?
Yeah.
And it actually sort of worked out because she's a pretty good dog now, you know?
Yeah.
But I know I'd be like that with the child too. I'd be like trying to instill wisdom as much as possible. And I know it'd be a big deal for me one day.
For sure.
It'll like, all right, this is the most important thing. How good can I make you? And make you experience as many things as possible to find your soul path too. You know?
Yeah. And then he's 16 and like a esche with you're like, fuck.
Yeah, and it won't be going to no public school, man, because that's how that shit happens. You're not going to turn to an esche going
There's so many things that you know, we're planning to homeschool, so hopefully our son doesn't become an esche. I don't know, maybe.
Nah.
I think homeschooling's great, and like there's no way my kid's got, like, he might go to a Steiner or Montessori or something, but like, you're done once you learn English and a little bit of history and shit. Like, fucking, all right,
and
let's go to the rite of passage.
In 20 years' time, AI is going to be doing so
I know.
much
I'm just going to give him ChatGPT from 3.
So, like, really, the only skill that your kids, I think, that is going to be super important from a learning academic standpoint is trades. Like, become a builder, man. Become a Sparky. Because, like, AI is going to do everything. AI is going to do law. It's going to do medicine. It's going to do admin. It's going to do everything.
Yeah, well, it's already better than 99% of the doctors out there.
Yeah.
I had a doctor the other day. I went in to do something for my gut and he just friggin' put ChatGPT on and listened to my thing, and then it all came up and he told me what I needed. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should.
Can't do what we do yet though.
No, it can't. It will never be able to. And like you said, like, there's a guy, Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk
in the States, yeah. And he's always talking about, like, he's like, colleges are obsolete now. He's like, if you want to make money, go be a carpenter. And I'm like, it's pretty true. It's like, do you want to have a HECS debt and then go and work 10-hour days for, you know, like the maximum, like if you're an eye surgeon or someone who's just absolutely
And that'll
amazing.
be a robot one day, bro.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're someone who's just fucking amazing at it, you might make 300 grand a year, but you spent 20 years studying and you've got debt of 300 or 400 grand. Like, do you really not think about that? And do you really want to be in the matrix? Because there is kids out there that are 12 years old making hundreds of millions of dollars off products, and there's just it's just changing. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's why I think anyone that sort of gives me the stink eye, like, oh, you got to homeschool. It's like, bitch.
Yeah.
When our kids are 18, I can assure you, my kid's going to be able to build me a house.
Yeah.
And your kid will be flailing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another example, I think I spoke about in the potty with Marky's kid where, and it's funny because when it was another man's child, I would have been like, oh, no, it's all right. Because he didn't want to jump on this electric bike. And he's like, no, I don't want to jump on it. And Marky's like, you're jumping on it. Picked him up and put it on it. And then he went for a ride, came back and loved it, you know?
Yeah.
But the fear, that's what I mean. Has to push him into that fear because maybe the super feminine woman would be like, oh, it's all right, darling. Come here. You don't have to jump on that bike. And then you just grow up into that, right? I grew up with my mum and my sister, but my mum's in a masculine, you know, very much so. So I feel like she almost like
instilled that in you.
Yeah, dad actually did too. Actually, dad gave me a lot of freedom. Yeah, but yeah, mum, I lived with mum. You know,
I think in the early years though, what was your dad like from 0 to 7? Like what?
Freedom. He never said no.
Yeah.
So I would always go to the beach, for 1 a.m. walks on the beach and show me the stars. And I'd be able to swim in the river at 1 a.m. with most people would be scared of sharks and shit.
Yeah.
He'd be like, no, you'd be right. Like,
yeah, cool.
It was always,
what do the Jesuits say? It's like, what's the saying from the Jesuits? Show me a boy until the age of 7 and I'll show you a man.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some biblical term like that. But basically Bruce Lipton talks about it, but what it's referring to is like what you do in that first 7 years of effectively hypnosis, because that's what's happening with your brain, will completely transform whether or not you stay a boy or become a man.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's the example of that boy thing. As I was at dinner at this Bockel place, and it was a while ago. I took this girl to dinner, and I asked the guy. He was probably like 19 or 20. This boy. It's funny he's calling that a boy now, you know. But I imagine myself at that age too. I was made dumb decisions. Had the full little Diamante in his ear, and like that vibe, which I thought that was like 2000s, dude. I thought that was dumb, but they're bringing that back, I guess. And and I asked him. He brought out a meal like a entree, and I was like, oh, I don't think that's it, man. I think that's something else. And he goes, oh no, I think so. And I was like, and he goes, I'm not sure. And then that was it. And I was like, oh yeah, like. So what's the next step? There's a problem in front of us here. What's the next step? Are you going to like figure it out? Go ask someone that knows this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is a boy right here.
Yeah.
And there's other boys that are 20 that are men. And there's other boys that are 20. I'm like, oh, this guy hasn't been opened up to any sort of, this is the task that's in front of you, dude. Like, you just got to get it done. Doesn't matter about nothing else happening around you. You get that shit done. You figure out if this is the meal for me or not. And that's one minor example, but it was like a huge epiphany for me. I was like, oh, this kid will be doing this in every part of his life, you know, not realizing why things are going wrong or why the woman gets unattracted to him after a few months. And, you know, you see these patterns with guys where they'll like see girls and then the girl will like ditch them after a few months. And I can see where they're going wrong. I can see they're in being too feminine. Yeah. And that makes a woman feel unsafe. It's like, remember you were talking about the other day, it's like a woman will unconsciously test your masculinity. Yeah. When we've seen this with our friends, they'll unconsciously test your masculinity. They don't even know they're doing it. Their femininity is testing your masculinity. And if you break, she knows, oh, this guy's not safe to be around. I can break him. And someone else will break him.
I actually was talking to a girl about this yesterday on our couch, one of Jai's friends, and I said that exact thing. I was like, yeah, but you don't know you're doing it. Yeah. And it's David Dyer.
Was she doing it right then? Was she mind fucking you right now?
She was trying to say like that it was over skinheads or having hair. And I was like, yeah, but like there becomes a stage where, you know, like having long hair and being like as a guy, like, you know. Yes. And she's like, yeah, but I think it looks cute. And I'm like, but is cute going to lead? Like, and I could see it ticking over. That's just what I believe. But yeah, exactly what you just said.
Yeah, like
I think it's important.
It was something like she was testing him like, oh, maybe I do want to do this now. And that was his moment to say, oh, you can do that, but I'm going to walk this way. You can do that by yourself. It's fine. Not in an angry way. Not in like, see you later, darling. Like there's, you know, I got a whole life ahead of me. But if you broke,
there's a big difference between city boys and country men, I think.
Yeah, isn't there?
I think for men, like they really got to be just on a farm. Like let's get real.
Yeah.
They have to learn how to kill an animal, gut a pig, like chase down cattle, fix a tractor, use a manual. Like if you're doing that from the day that you're born, like you're going to be a man by the time you're 18.
100%. Hey.
If you grow up on TikTok.
Yeah. But also you see these same farmer guys that are just pissheads too a lot of the time too.
Well, you know? There's a lot of DV out there. Like I'm not saying that rural life is the ultimate, but I think if we're talking about like those real deep-seated masculine, primal traits. It's about like, what have you been exposed to from 0 to 7, like you just said.
Yeah.
I think
I think that's why property really excites me, eh?
well, we've spoken about like the king archetype and the warrior archetype. A few things is like something I did when I was young, like back when I was 6. I think we spoke about this. When I was 6, I first had this realization, but was the guy has to think like what's the right no matter what the situation is in front of you, whatever the crisis is or issue, is the guy has to think, what is the optimal way to get through this for myself and the tribe may be the world, but not what is good for me, not what's good for the people like love, even like what's the right answer outside of emotions and just logic, because emotions can't come into it. We're going into an emotional world. There's logic, logic will keep you alive.
Yeah.
Emotions will kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, there's always a right answer. And I think if that was drilled in, like taught as a young man, like you could say, what would a king do? What advice would you give to your child in this situation is another way of getting to that level of mindset of like the answer, the deep knowing, the truth. Okay. And that truth could be, do I want to train this or that? Do I want to be with this person and not be with this person? Do I want to go this job or that job? Like there's always an answer. Yeah. And like, you find when you don't listen to that answer that you deep down know, is it'll fall apart in one way or another later on. Yeah. So it's a nice way of thinking and just stepping out of emotions and saying, what's the answer in front of me outside of anything else, And
that's easier for men to do.
Yeah, I know. Not a lot of men can do that though. I notice.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, they get emotional and they start reacting.
The soy milk in their coffees, probably.
Yeah. What is it? It's like childlike. Some guys just get really emotional. They'll get quick to anger of things.
Yeah.
But you realize
that was
me. Yeah.
Like for sure.
Quick to anger, but it's an emotional thing. I see that as an emotional thing.
It is.
Yeah.
100%. Because
they say anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
So it precedes sadness and fear and vulnerability ultimately.
Oh, I used to cry all the time because I was fearful. So I'd get up on stage and I'd talk and I'd cry because I felt so sad. But it was real fear. And it was really like, I just hadn't had my rite of passage yet. Once I realized like, you should be afraid of nothing really, because like you shouldn't, unless it's falling, you learn falling as a kid. That's bad, but knives, maybe, I don't know.
Reflexes.
Yeah. It's like, but everything else is a learned fear. And I think like I learned a lot of them.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Yeah.
So what advice, we'll wrap this up, but what advice would you give to all the women out there listening? Like, what's one piece of advice you could give to them in regards to whatever you want, but definitely in regards to fertility and that fear they have of not being able to get pregnant and procreate?
Well, I think you got to eat. That's probably my number one piece of advice. Please eat.
Yeah.
Particularly a lot more protein. In regards to fear, it's just not necessarily truthful if you're in a healthy body. So you are literally our only reason as a species to be here is to reproduce. That's it.
I agree.
That's it. That's our only job. So we have been engineered and designed for that to be number one priority for our species to continue. So when you understand it like that, you realize that, you might have some obstacles, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get there, because that is the sole purpose of your body is to breed. So you have to just like keep the faith that if you move through some of those physiological webs, that maybe it's the SIBO, maybe it's the soy milk, maybe it's the PCOS, like whatever it might be, or the parasites, there's a very, very strong chance that you will end up succeeding in actively trying to conceive. I often, I think it's really important to also, and maybe we can finish on this, is just to recognize that things like IVF, for example, really should only be used if there's structural or mechanical issues at play. Like if you've had blunt force trauma to the womb, or there's a descended testy, or, something like that, where it's like no amount of gut protocols is going to fix your testicle in that situation. But
Fully.
That's a very, very, that's a very, very small amount of people. So everything else that comes before that cohort, PCOS, endometriosis, you know, like low testosterone, elevated homocysteine, MTHFR, like all of that sort of stuff can be rectified through nutrition and lifestyle.
That's nice.
Beautiful.
That's inspiring
Well,
for the people.
where can people contact you if they want to work with you?
At the Women's Series
Yep.
on Instagram. I'm about 3 weeks away from launching my second business, the Lab Series.
Yeah.
So if people are just curious about finding out more information about their internal health, they can go through the labs. And yeah, if they want to work with me, I'm at the Women's Series.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and you're a legend, and really
Pleasure,
appreciate
guys.
you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate
Pleasure.
that. Much love.
Much love.